So now's as good a time as any to go ahead and film this. And as you can see, I replaced out my lower control arm and my upper control arm, and you can see I'm missing the axle because I'm going to go ahead and replace that out too. I also did my steering rack. I just got done bolting that in. I got to go ahead and bolt the gear assembly to the steering rack, and I got to, thread all the hoses in, and then I'm going to go ahead and flush it out. As you can see, what I did with the brake calipers, I just took it off. I had it hanging right here, but I wanted to clear it out so I could go ahead and throw my axle in. Normally, I don't think you'd want to do this, but I know the axle will be sitting, it'll be kind of resting on the control arm, so it's okay to put it in. You just don't want to put that strain on it. And now I did this to this is the driver's side, 2004 Toyota Tundra. Okay, this is the driver's side. Now I did the passenger side about month and a half ago, and it's okay because this truck sees maybe 2,000 miles a year. So since I've done it, it may have seen like maybe 200 miles. I don't remember. I'm glad I did the passenger side first. I did the exact same thing on the passenger side. The only additional step I did here, and real quick, I don't even know what this piece is called. This little arm here, okay, it's got the upper ball joint. I brought it into Pep Boys to have them press out the old ball joint and press in the new ball joint. I did that on the other side as well. I did get one of those kits that you get from O'Reilly or AutoZone, whatever. The adapters were not proper, and I don't have snap ring pliers, so I wasn't gonna buy snap ring pliers for this job. So anyways, let me get up underneath here, and you can see, okay, there's one bolt. Okay, there's the other side, and the nut. Sorry, the bolts are on the inside. Okay, the nuts are on the outside. Now you can see the other side was somewhat difficult. My steering rack didn't exactly prohibit me from doing what I wanted to do, but there was no way that I would have been able to do this side. I saw a video where they did this side and they took the boot off and the bolt barely cleared this, and then of course you got to reattach the boot. Well, since I replaced my steering rack, I figured why should I even mess with removing the boot and blah blah blah. So anyways, I didn't have to do that on the other side. I don't have these bolts torqued just yet. Not until I get the rest of this assembly in. And of course, I haven't got it aligned yet. But once I do all this stuff, yeah, it needs to go in for an alignment. The steering rack, let me show you here. Okay, you got a bolt here. This is a 22 millimeter. This is actually a nut. There's a bolt on the other side. Now what I did is I bought the steering rack, and for some reason the steering rack does not come with that bushing. So I bought a bushing kit, and I went to YouTube, good old fancy YouTube, and I replaced out this bushing, because you can see there's a bolt there. You actually have to access it from the top. It's very difficult. I replaced out this bushing, and of course that bushing, the funky one, has been replaced. Unfortunately, when I was driving this in, the sleeve that's inside the bushing, kept coming out, so I kept smacking it back in, and it was back and forth, back and forth. Finally, that sleeve it got stuck to the bolt, and I actually had to cut it off. So I ended up having to go buy another bushing kit just so I could do this. And of course, the new sleeve didn't fit the rubber bushings that I already had in. So of course I had to loosen this. I had to take this one out completely after I had it already started, and that's very difficult. That wasn't tight. That was still kind of loose, but you've got a rubber thing here that I was able to pry out, but then to pry out this side here, I had to pull the whole rack this way. Fortunately, I didn't have to disconnect any of this. I got that connected. I just got to tighten those bolts down. You can see here's one of my hoses. Okay, I've just got the top one. It's finger tight. The bottom one was just being a booger. But that's yet something else I have to do, is go ahead and crank this down, get this together. There's you can see, let's go for right here. Okay, there's a 10 or 12 millimeter. There's a little you can see the little standoff on the rack there. Okay, it's just a little keeper, just bolts in. Okay, so that's the steering rack. Now, I apologize about this. Now, when I did the control arms, both sides, the other side was worse than this side was. When I did this side, I know you're supposed to mark it. You're supposed to mark the camber, you know, how it's lined up. I knew I wasn't going to be reusing the factory camber, and that's one thing that held me up on the passenger side, is when I finally got this piece out on both sides, because both sides they weren't seized. I mean, I still had my movement, but it just would not come out. So, but this one here, this side, I mean, I was able to just pull it out, and it just plink, plopped out. This one here, I ended up having to cut this off right here. Right inside here. I ended up cutting that with the Sawzall. And then, like when I did the other side, I had to go out and I had to pick up my caster camber adjustment kit, because I was anticipating reusing factory, but that was not going to happen. So I had to buy this kit, and it's actually the same kit, driver side, passenger side. I had to buy this kit for the passenger side. So before I even started this time around, I went ahead and I picked up this kit. Now this here, it's the same on the driver side and the passenger side. You just pull this flap down. Okay, I believe 19 millimeter nut and 19 millimeter bolt here. Okay, and it is a little bit of a booger to pull that out. Let's go roll over to the other side. I'm on my little Harbor Freight mechanic workbench or work seat. Okay, so yeah, this ball joint here, you can see it's new cotter pin. Okay. Like I said, I got one of those kits, and it maybe it's because I took it off the truck and I couldn't get the torque on it. I was trying to do it with the socket. I wasn't using my impact. Now with these, with my tie rods, I just took the old one and I got a measurement off my tape measure from this point right here to a point over here on the rack somewhere. I'm not trying to get it balls on accurate because it's going to the alignment shop. Now, I also ended up, I had to replace this. I think this is the torque rod, okay? I ended up having to replace this. Got my grease fitting here, and both tie rods, you can see, they both have a grease fitting. So once everything's bolted together, I'll put some grease in there. I did put grease in here already. I'm gonna have the shop double check that, make sure that's all good to go. And you know what I ended up having to do is I just unbolted all these clamps that are holding everything down. I just unbolted them. So yeah, the biggest issues I ran into with the passenger side and the driver's side is the control arm. Passenger side, both are, I was pointing to this, that's for the strut, sorry. The control arm, which you can see right there, and you can see the inner one right there, okay? I had an issue with those. So I ended up having to call a mobile mechanic out here to get this piece down. When I did the passenger side, I allotted 10 hours. I was gonna do the passenger side in 10 hours, the driver's side in 10 hours. Give me one Saturday, one Sunday, boom, everything's done. This side right here, this, I got started at, let's say, 10 o'clock or so on Saturday morning. I did not get everything bolted together until 10 o'clock, or sorry, 10:30 at night, Sunday night. So I went ahead, since I replaced this side, this I think it's a torque rod. Since I replaced this, I went ahead and got a new one for the other side. It doesn't have the grease fitting. This is a Moog part, whereas the other side is AutoZone special. I don't know. But yeah, and of course when you pop the dust cap off, stick a screwdriver in here. Actually, it would be in here to break this free, this nut, axle nut. And then when you go to tighten it, then you're going to stick a screwdriver in here and crank it down. Or to tighten it, I guess you could put the tire on, drop the truck, and then crank it down. Whatever. But so yeah, I went ahead and same thing here. I just undid this one, this little snap, dropped it down. Again, 19 millimeter nut, 19 millimeter bolt, slide it out. Now there is stuff in the way, so it was not easy to come out. And I think that's it for this side. Let's go back over to the other side, because some of these other YouTube videos don't point out the issues that you may or may not run into. So this one here, like I said, pop this out and this out. There are some I don't know if they're brake lines or there's some rigid lines that are in the way. Now I removed, there's a little clamp that holds them down. I removed it, and I found where it is up here, which is actually right here. Let me see if I can zoom in on that. Right there. Okay? Now, honestly, that didn't do anything for me. So, but alas, I was able to get the bolt out, get the bolt back in, obviously, with the new control arm. And to my knowledge, nothing is busted. And of course, this probably goes without saying, I probably should have prefaced this video by saying jack stands, blah, 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 blah. If you're doing this, I hope you already have that information. Here's that new torque rod here. Anyways, when I did the steering rack, I saw a video that totally took apart all the gearing up there, and it's not necessary. It was a little difficult to pull down. Even though I took the bolt out, it still did not want to come out. So I'm waiting on this piece from Pep Boys. I just got done bolting my rack in, as far as like these big bolts that actually hold the rack in. Now I got to put the hoses in. And I got to put that hose clamp down. And before I proceed forward, I may just flush the power steering fluid, and then while I'm waiting on this piece here, I'm gonna go ahead and throw my axle in, because like I said, it'll be sitting on the control arm, so I don't think that's gonna be too huge a deal. So, and of course, when you go to pull this off, you gotta, if you've ever worked on brakes before, you've gotta, you know, make some room, otherwise it won't pull off. So, and then the piece I'm waiting on has that whole piece, and of course when I get that piece back, what I learned from the other side is I had the ball joint, I think, already connected to this, and when I put the when I tried to put the 4 bolts into the bottom of this arm, if you will, yeah, I had a hell of a time lining them up. So I'm gonna make sure to at least loosely tighten, get my ball joint, my lower ball joint started, and then I can move this around. I can move this piece around as needed, this little arm piece. I can move it around as needed. But anyways, I know I didn't show you what I did as I was doing it, but hopefully me explaining the issues that I ran into, hopefully they do help you out. I didn't have a wrench big enough for this, so I just cranked it with channel locks. Like I said, as soon as I get it thrown together, my goal is I am going to go in for an alignment. So I just cranked them down, throw it all back together, and then I'll put some grease in here, and yeah, so go get my alignment. But you know, I went in for an alignment, and they said my lower control arm bushings were shot, and you know, just got me to thinking, well, why should I do just the bushings? Why should I do just the lower control arms? So it spiraled. It went to lower control arm, upper ball joint, lower ball joint, axles. And they said that my steering rack, they said it's not leaking, but it's seeping. So again, why not? I'm doing that. Why would you do all this and then not do the steering? To me, that's kind of pointless, but that's my opinion. I didn't do the struts because the struts were done about 6 months ago, maybe 9 months ago. They're fairly new, and like I said, this truck sees maybe 2,000 miles a month currently. So, I mean, they're brand new because they haven't seen but maybe 5,000 miles, if that. Or no, I'm sorry, they've seen maybe 1,000 miles, 1,000 to 2,000 miles. So anyways, that's what I've got going on. Again, Generation 1 Toyota Tundra. This is a 2004 double cab, 4-wheel drive, limited. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of a place, gives you some, do you want to tackle this job? Honestly, had I known what was involved in this, I probably would have tried to find someone to do this for me. You know, I did the axles in my wife's car, but those were cake compared to this. Of course, if I was doing just the axles in here, it'd be fine. Were the axles bad? No. But like I said, if I'm gonna do it, I might as well just do it, right? Anyways, so that's that. Give me a like, thumbs up, comments, whatever. And again, you know, let me know if these videos are helping you out, or am I just doing these for, you know, for my own reference for in the future. And everything that's coming off, I'm gonna re-bushing both control arms, upper and lower. I'm gonna reboot the factory axles, so I have them, and so when it needs to be done again in 10 years, because I don't ever plan on getting rid of this truck. But anyways, so that's that. If you have any comments or questions, hit me up, give me a like. Maybe you can share it to someone who's looking to do a project like this. So anyways, that's that. Thank you. Bye.